Well, Steeler Nation, we are back for another great show. When times were better, when Super Bowls were being won, Lombardis were being raised. Before we get into it, first and foremost, I'm with Mic'd Up Sports. One, as always, how are you?
Good. You're right. We got a special treat for the folks today, for the dedicated listeners of the Sick Podcast. Steelers, crazy. Super Bowl champion. It's not every day you get to hang out with one of those. So I'm good. I'm better. It's about as good as it can be. What do you say?
I hear you. Hey, but before we get into it, we want to give a big shout out to our partners over at City Wheelhouse, where the bar is set. And make sure you know that because they do set the bar. Tires for all cars and trucks can now be purchased online at steelcitywheelhouse.com. Financing is available. Go see our guys John and John down there. You need some new tires, custom auto work. We always say it. Our guy Jalen Warren, we did his show this year. Get your ride pimped out. It's Pittsburgh West Coast Autumn. Go check them out. It's where the bar is set. And you see it on my hat here. I guess you can say now it's the champion of beers, brewed right here in beautiful Latrobe, where the Steelers have training camp. Why settle for a run-of-the-mill, mass-produced beer when you can have the best? Upgrade your beer game, raise your standards, and taste the difference that Stoney's beer can deliver. And yes, they do deliver. And our next guest, he definitely delivered, outstanding career, and we're really excited to talk to him. And I think that, like I said, I was talking to him off air before you got on, and I was saying I think maybe he said he got one more snap left in him, so we might have to get that one-day contract here, Mr. Rooney. Hey, but what do you say, Juliana? Let's get to it.
Turn up your volume. Because you're about to listen to the Sick Podcast. Steelers Crazy.
Harris Smith shields. Flacco Polamalu takes it home. Super Bowl 43. Pittsburgh might be bound for that thanks to number 43.
The sickest Pittsburgh Steelers podcast. Sports entertainment like no other. It's gonna be sick.
Yeah, I don't know how far off you are. The Steelers could use some offensive line help as well. Before we bring him in quickly, I do want to shout out DraftKings as well. I know that obviously the Super Bowl is now over, but it doesn't mean sports betting ends anytime soon. You can download the DraftKings Sportsbook app. Make sure you use DraftKings, code 6sports. That's us, SICKSPORTS. 6 Sports, there you go, to get 200 in bonus bets instantly. You just need to bet $5 on any bet out there, right? You can bet NFL bets. You bet futures. You can bet draft futures. The NFL draft's right around the corner. So $5 on any of those NFL bets, and you will get your money's worth. This guy always got his money's worth, and your fans' money's worth if you went to watch him play in person over at Three River Stadium. He is a Pro Bowler, Super Bowl champion, all-around good dude. Let's welcome him in. It's none other than Marvell Smith. Marvell, how are you?
I'm doing good. Pleasure to be on with you guys.
Thanks.
Pleasure to have you, man. We're just talking about that fan cave back there. Let the people know. What do you got behind you? You have a replica Super Bowl trophy, it looks like. Are any of those game balls?
Yeah, they're after each week, they gave out game balls for the games that, offensive line performed well in. But it's funny because I never used to keep memorabilia up in my home or nothing. It was always just in a box. And once the kids got older, they would always ask, about stories and stuff like that. So I finally put together, a room where I could just display everything and whatnot. So it's pretty cool for the kids or whatnot.
How old are the kids? Tell me about them.
So I actually had my oldest he'll be 16, but I had him my last year in Pittsburgh. And so after him, my daughter, she's 13, and my youngest son, he just turned 11. So they keep me busy for sure.
Do they think dad is like this all-pro, or are you just like dad to them?
Yeah, they don't listen to anything I tell them to do.
That's good stuff. That's totally good stuff. Hey, let's talk football, man. And Jordan and I currently are in the midst of our draft season. We're having NFL draft prospects on left and right. When you're drafted by the Pittsburgh Steelers, what do you remember? What are your initial thoughts? Kind of take us back to that moment in time.
Well, it's interesting. I mean, back then it wasn't like the whole spectacle that it is now. And the one thing that sticks out in my mind was I remember during the draft, I got a phone call from the Cincinnati Bengals, and their offensive line coach, he was telling me that if I'm available, that they were going to pick me. So I'm like, all right, cool. I knew they weren't a good team, but I didn't follow, Cincinnati Bengals much. But I know once I got off the phone with him, I just started praying, like, please don't let them pick me. I know the team sucks. I do not want to go to Cincinnati. And so the draft goes on, and I forget who they picked, but I wasn't worried about it because I didn't want to go anyway. And I think it was like right at the end of the first round, my phone rung, and Coach Cowher was on the phone and was asking if I wanted to how'd I feel about being a Pittsburgh Steeler, and it's definitely a moment that I'll never forget. Something that you always work for, but I didn't know where Pittsburgh was at. like
Yep.
I grew up on the West Coast my whole life. Like I grew up in Oakland, California, went to school at Arizona State, so everything was West Coast. I just knew it was somewhere back on the East Coast somewhere.
So you're kind of like, at this point, did you at least know the history, the culture? How long did it take you to kind of have that set in and digest? Is it like when you get in the building and you hear about the legends, you see them on billboards and everywhere around Pittsburgh is Steeler Nation left and right? How long did that take you to really sink in?
Well, it's funny because I grew up a Raiders fan.
Mm-hmm.
So there was always the rivalry between, Pittsburgh and the Raiders. So I always knew they had good teams. And it didn't take long to realize, in the city where, the Steelers dominate everything. It doesn't matter if it's off season or what, it's year round, the Steeler fans. And the funny thing was it really didn't hit me until my rookie year. We were playing the Raiders. And I remember in the stadium, they started playing, old highlights. They showed the Immaculate Reception. And it was like, man, like that was it's funny because in the moment I'm thinking, like, this is a play that I didn't like growing up. But now this is like one of the biggest plays in Steeler history. I'm thinking about this on the field before the game. It's like, man, I'm supposed to hate this team. So it's like I completely switched in the moment. And it was like, I think it was like the second or third game of the season or something like that. But it was like, Steeler Nation is like huge all the time, all over the place. But being in the moment and really, really feeling it for the first time is when I realized, like, all right, this is completely different being in Pittsburgh for sure.
Yeah, definitely special. Love hearing those memories. Jordan, go ahead. You can take it.
Yeah. So how did Mike Tomlin differentiate from Bill Cowher?
I think the biggest difference was he was I think when Coach Tomlin came in, he was only 5 years older than maybe the oldest guy on the team, I think.
Yeah. I think he was one of the youngest coaches at the time, if not the youngest, I think.
Yeah, so he really, related well with the guys. And even still to this day, like he has a real unique way of motivating guys. And so the biggest difference to me though was Coach Cowher, you could see his passion, and I mean, everybody remember the chin, but how intense he was all the time. And Tomlin's the exact same way, but it's just in a different way. Like they both are really good motivators at getting guys to be able to play at the highest level. And so those are the biggest differences to me, really. It was just the way that they went about motivating guys, because each one of them me personally, I love playing for both of them. Like their way of motivating and getting guys, even in practice, the intensity before practice, just walking through the stretch lines, just they're tapping into each individual guy's mindset going into practice or into the games or whatnot. They had a unique way of motivating guys. I mean, it's the reason why they're both, all-time great coaches.
So basically, like, they were both similar but had their own way of going about it, is what I grasped from that.
Yep.
Great. So, obviously, you did your fair share with the Super Bowls, all pro. What do you think about this current team? Let's talk about specifically the quarterback, Kenny Pickett, because right now he's the only quarterback on the roster. Obviously, they're going to, sign someone, hopefully, to, give him some competition. But just talk about the quarterback position currently for the Pittsburgh Steelers.
It seems like that's the one spot that's, I don't want to say it's holding them back, but I mean, they got so many skilled players at every single position. The line, they seem like they're molding them together. Seem like they really started to come together towards the end of the season too. I mean, the real question mark at the end, it seems like, is the quarterback position. And I think Pickett's going into his third year.
Yes.
And I mean, at that point, if you really haven't figured out, I mean, you kind of are what you are in the league at this point. And the biggest thing to do is get in somebody to be able to motivate him, whether it's somebody young that they can build upon, or
they're hoping that with Arthur Smith, just hiring a new offensive coordinator. But the crazy thing is Matt Canada and Kenny Pickett had a relationship in college and, worked together there. So, and he's also, just from all the studies that we did, he's supposed to be the most NFL ready quarterback. He's going to be 26 before the next season. We're not talking like a guy that's coming fresh out of, college. This is Van Wilder over here.
Marvell, what was when Big Ben came to your squad? Did you know right away? Were you like, all right, this dude is different? Nothing against Tommy Gunn, nothing against some of the quarterbacks that you had. And obviously, I think it differs a lot from Kenny Pickett, because a lot of people said Ben's not ready. Ben's still young. Ben is immature. Who knows? I didn't know him. I wasn't around him. But was there a part of you that was like, all right, this guy's gonna win me a ring?
No, I can't say in the beginning anybody thought that. Even I'm pretty sure you guys remember when Tommy got hurt. And Ben had to play. And if I remember right, I mean, Banneker even mentioned, was like, who wants to play with a rookie quarterback? So it wasn't like he was obviously talented. I mean, it wasn't too many guys 6'5" and as mobile as him and as big as he was playing the position. So he had all the skill set. And the great thing was the team that was built around him. He was in the perfect situation. Like, we didn't rely. Ben probably threw the ball 20, maybe 25 times a game. His rookie year. So it was like, we was a run dominant team. We had great receivers, leaders all over at every single position on offense. We had real strong, stable players or whatnot. So Ben really wasn't forced into a role where we had to rely upon him. And it really seems that's one of the biggest differences that it looks like with Pickett. Is like sometimes it's on him to have to make this play. And that's something that I don't recall ever really being in a situation where Ben had to do that. Although he made a ton of great plays, but it was just him, improvising during the play. Like, he was always running around like it was like guys hanging on him. And he's still throwing the ball, scrambling around, it was like backyard football at some point, a lot of times he was out there playing. So he always had the skill set to be able to be successful. He truly maximized his talent for sure.
Before I throw it back over to Mike, I just wanted to ask, obviously, the Super Bowl, what was your favorite memory and how surreal was that, playing on the big stage, for the Pittsburgh Steelers, even though you, grew up a Raiders fan?
It's crazy because our team that won, especially Super Bowl XL, always sticks out because we were, the whole core group of guys were together for a long period of time. And, Pittsburgh never really built through free agency or anything. It was something that, like, they drafted really well, developed players, and we all came up together. So to be able to get onto that stage and
brotherhood
at his hometown, like we really were out there for one another, and to be able to experience that with those guys. And coming out at halftime, really when Willie broke that run after coming out at halftime, we knew, like,
it was a wrap.
It was like there was nothing like the momentum, just the way we played. Our defense, we get a lead, we're gonna pound the ball. Like, all we had to do is continue to go out there and play and make plays. So the thing that really sticks out in my mind was being able to achieve that with those core group of brothers that, we matured together. I got drafted to Pittsburgh when I was 20 years old.
Mm-hmm.
So we all matured and came together and was able to really put it together and get that win. So that always sticks out.
I remember it's kind of surreal talking to you right now because I was with Mike during that Super Bowl at his mom's house, and we skipped school the next day because I think we might have had 17 Mountain Dews at the time.
Yep.
And man, it's just all around great stuff. Mike, take it away.
Everybody should have the day off after the Super Bowl, especially in your home city if you win.
Yeah.
I mean, that's darn sure. That's
Pittsburgh of all places.
That's a holiday in itself, so we'll never forget skipping school that day. I'm just curious, hearing you talk about some of these guys, and I want to just throw a couple names at you and give me just like the first thoughts that bounce off your head. I'll start with Joey Porter.
The intensity that he brought every single practice, every single game, he was the guy that got us all hyped up, in the tunnel, in the locker room. Everybody, anytime he spoke, it was always, to light a fire under us.
Yeah.
Not that we even needed it with the group of guys that we had, but that's the one thing that always stuck out to me, his intensity and fire every single time we stepped between the lines. What
about Casey Hampton?
Casey was
big snack.
He was so unique because he was so strong, but he was so agile and be able to move. Like he held down the interior of the line on his own essentially. But then we had Chemo and Kiso and Aaron Smith, guys like our front line, man, was so set and strong. But it was like he was like the rock, in the center of the foundation of the defense for the most part.
Yeah, I'll never forget either that I went to Steelers training camp for the first time in college to conduct some interviews. And I asked Casey about how much he enjoyed the conditioning tests. And he was like, he wasn't even playing with me as a college kid. He was like, man, he was like, I don't enjoy that. He's like, he's super public about that.
Big snack.
He didn't care. Everybody knew, and it became something that like was funny at the time. But he had a role that I don't know necessarily needed him to sprint 100 yards as fast as he could. What about Troy?
Troy was an amazing player. It's funny because he changed the way we actually practiced because he was able to do so much stuff on the field. We always, as a line, we got used to reading coverages and the number count, just looking at the umbrella, which was a secondary essentially. And then we worked our way down into the box. So we were always responsible for a certain number count. Well, Troy always threw that off because he would line up down in the box, but he would have deep third of the field coverage or something. So we had to factor him into our number count, but at the end of when the ball snapped, he wasn't even going to be there. So it'll screw up our number count. Like it wasn't many guys that physically were able to line up at the line of scrimmage and then cover somebody deep. Just having that skill set and even being cerebral enough to know what's going on the field on both sides of the ball, to be able to package that all up together. And he's probably the one guy that I feel like I played with. You always hear people say you can't flip a switch.
Yeah.
Well, he did. Like all the time. Like the guy that he played, the way he played on the field, he wasn't that off the field. And to be able to put all of that into somebody that is so uber athletic at the same time, he definitely had all the qualities to be a great Pittsburgh Steeler for sure.
Love that. All right, one more, and then we'll get you out of here. I want to ask you about a guy on your side of the ball. We talked about guys that you practiced against. Tell me about the Bus. What comes to mind?
Bus was a huge leader. He was somebody that was always a calming voice in everybody's ear, regardless of what was going on. He was always there to motivate us, keep us going. I was amazed in my rookie year of seeing how many grown men would turn down actually wanting to tackle him. Like by the time we got to that same Raider game, in the first half, they were coming up trying to hit him. My rookie year when we was playing him. Second half, it's all arm tackles. They didn't even want to come up and hit him or nothing. They just reaching out. He's breaking every single arm tackle. And to be as agile as he was on his feet, truthfully, I mean, towards the end of the season, he was almost like a fullback back there playing tailback, but he was so light on his feet and agile. It was impressive to watch him to be able to be shifty enough to elude any defender and be able to still run over Brian Urlacher. You know,
Yeah. We all remember that. I should have that photo hanging somewhere.
It's a picture, yeah.
Man, that is like one of the most classic. Are you in that photo? Maybe.
Probably. I don't think not the angles that I've seen.
We got to Photoshop you in if I put one in here one of these days, man. Listen, this has been really cool. I know Steelers fans love hearing about these memories. I won't call it the good old days just yet, because I still think we're living in the good old days with a lot of winning football in Pittsburgh. Even
Love
though
your optimism.
hasn't necessarily resulted in rings recently, but I still think we're in the good old days. And I'm not just saying this because you're on this show, but you know how Steelers Nation is. Jordan and I will still go tailgate or walk around Acrisure Stadium. We'll see a Marvell Smith jersey. I'm not even kidding with you. You know how people love their Steelers or Steelers in the early 2000s, 90s Steelers. So, man, this has been really cool. We have a lot of Steelers fans across the world watching, of course. Do you have any message for Steelers Nation?
No, I love Steeler Nation. It's amazing. I live out here in California, and it's funny, if you go down to the beaches, there's Steeler bars at the beach out here in California. You know, so I have nothing but love for Pittsburgh forever. I actually look forward to getting back out there. And
I was going to say, do you come back ever?
It's been a while. I think the last time I've been back out there was like from Super Bowl reunion. Yeah. So I definitely need to get back out there.
Yeah, I was just Charlie Batch had an event. He does a lot of stuff in the community, obviously, and all the guys that play with you, Jerome, James Harrison, all them guys were there. So next time you'll definitely have to join.
Yeah, it's definitely cool to be able to come back and be around the guys and see how everybody's life is changing once you go on out of the. You know, it's funny because it's such a small part of, you know, like 10, 12. 15 years of your life or whatnot, but then there's so much more that goes on. It's like sometimes I sit there and watch the games. I can't even believe I actually played. I'll see somebody get lit up and walk back to the huddle. Like,
you got to show your kids and be like, look what your dad did.
Yeah, it's funny because my younger son, he loves sitting there watching, recording, or he'll be on YouTube looking up old videos, and I'm like, I don't even remember. I didn't even watch
Marvell Smith highlights.
Yeah, he's one of those that'll sit there on the couch and look at, like, he knows all about NFL and Steeler history and everything.
Is he playing?
He just actually finished his first year of tackle football.
Nice.
Well, if he's anything like you, I'm sure he'll be a great athlete and hopefully a Super Bowl champion one day.
No, he's built for it already, that's for sure.
Nice.
There you go. Hey, Marvell, we really appreciate your time. We'll definitely have to do it again. I know Steeler Nation is really going to love this episode, hearing from someone like you. Thank you for everything that you did for the Black and Gold. And, you know, obviously your dad of the year, it seems like. So you have that going for you now, too.
Yeah, I appreciate it.
Thanks, Marvell.
Thank you, Marvell. Have a good one.
Doesn't it bring back a little bit? I said the good old days. It's almost like talking about the fact that Pittsburgh has a bad football team. That's not the case. Like we're still fortunate. We're still blessed.
We're just not. We don't have a bad football team. We're just not living up to the standard.
He was the standard. Those teams were the standard. Joey,
they set the standard.
You know, Kiesel. Those are the standard.
Like, you don't go into other NFL facilities and see 6 Lombardis there. Like, that's not like, okay, like, you know, the Patriots, but
that's it. It's the only one.
We did it the right way. We didn't have to cheat. Yeah.
I think Brady put it in the house, so you probably can't go to another facility and see 6 Super Bowl trophies. Hey, at least he didn't go to the Bengals, right? The Bungles.
Yeah, at the time, man, the Bungles, they're still, you know, no Super Bowls. So I think that he made a smart choice. Obviously, before we get out of here, you know, we do 2 shows every week. I just want you guys to know, make sure you subscribe, tell your friends. We're going to be doing draft profiles on these guys, on all the prospects. We're going to be just having analysts on, and just it's Steelers all year round on the one and only, the Sick Podcast, Steeler Crazy. So make sure you subscribe. And I'm Jay York Football. This is Mic'd Up Sports 1, and we'll see you next week. Remember, there is no off season on this Sick Podcast, Steeler Crazy. We'll see you soon.
And that's a wrap. Hope you don't miss us too much until next time. Follow the Sick Podcast Steelers Crazy on YouTube, Instagram, Facebook, Google Play, and Apple Podcasts.